Yeah, Saudi Arabia is an interesting topic. You live in Riyadh. Is it is it right that you are basically
Mm,
for 15 years?
Yeah, I've been in Riyadh for the last 15 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let me ask you the next question. What key messages do you want the audience to take away from this conversation when it's over?
Mhm. Well, it will be the transformation which Saudi Arabia is going through, the opportunities for growth, and the cultural and social progress which the kingdom is undergoing right now. So you will have the strategic insight about all of these three, and that will be your key takeaways from this session.
To frame the episode a little bit further at the beginning so that people know what they can expect in the next 2 hours, what's your ideal listener for this episode?
Uh, the ideal listener will be business professionals, of course, top of the list, enthusiasts who are seeking opportunities in Saudi Arabia, digital transformation, and the dreamer. The dreamer comes in the top, by the way. Anybody who is dreaming big right now in terms of his professional growth, his organizational growth, they are my key or ideal listeners right now.
I'm pretty happy that you are on the show, and my motives are completely selfish because I learned in the last few years that I have the wrong picture in mind when it comes to Saudi Arabia. I had Alex Tavoronkov from In Silico Medicine, I think is his company, on my podcast 2 years ago, and he said that he raised 400 billions from Saudi Aramco in a AI company in drug development, and I still have this picture in mind that I'm in born 74, 11th August, and I'm close to 50. And I grew up with the picture in school that Saudi Arabia is predominantly in the oil business, and was pretty
Yeah.
surprised 2 years ago that obviously I missed a lot from the development in the last 2 to 3 decades. Um, you live in Saudi Arabia and you experienced this tech evolution of Saudi Arabia firsthand. When we capture with 3 words the journey from Saudi Arabia, what would these 3 words be?
Well, the first one will be the vision of the government, what they want to achieve, and and the transformation they will go through, and what kind of innovation is required in order to do that transformation and to reach that particular vision. So it will be innovation, transformation, and vision.
That's great. That's great. Can you share your journey in the tech industry from, I think we are pretty much, we have the same experience in tech and you really made it your profession. What's your background?
Well, my basic background is in the business. I've done my MBA, and then I went into technology with few courses. Started my technology. Uh, like started off with the technology market, and then I came into Saudi Arabia in 2008, and that's where the whole journey of Saudi Arabia started, where I started witnessing the digital and the cultural transformation of Saudi Arabia.
This was pretty much in the during the financial crisis, 2008, 2007.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what's bring me out of Pakistan into Saudi Arabia.
That's great. That's great. Why did you decide for Saudi Arabia?
Well, I will be dead honest about it. It is first, it is very close to my country.
Mm,
Pakistan is hardly like 4 hours flight from Pakistan. Uh,
it's 2 hours only.
Obviously, no, 4 hours,
4 hours. Okay.
4 hours. Yeah, and specifically and basically to the religious regions as well, because we have the two most valuable holy places in Saudi Arabia, which every Muslim must visit at least once in a lifetime. And secondly, is the transformation which the Saudi government was going through. And because we have a close ties, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia has close ties together. So I was looking around with my, I mean, college fellows and university fellows, how they are going into Saudi Arabia, when they used to tell me that, okay, we are going these kind of a projects. And my first question was, are you sure? Really? Because from outside, we see like Saudi Arabia, fine. But when they started telling me that, no, you have no idea what they have started. So my first choice was, let's try. It was not like, I have to go, let's try it. So my try was maybe like 1 year, 2 year, I will try it, see maybe the stories which are built around Saudi Arabia is good enough, or it's just like stories. But the 1 year, 2 years lasted into 15 years and I'm still here.
That's great. So basically, if I understood you right, the tech transformation of Saudi Arabia happened from 2008 to 2024 and ongoing, of course, in the future.
Exactly. Because at that time in 2008, it was the telecom revolution going on. The 4G was there, and the government over here was spending a lot in terms of the infrastructure development, the fiber and the mobile network. And, you have the same background. The more strong connectivity you have, the more strong infrastructure you have, the best kind of tech revolution you can build on these kind of infrastructure. If you have no infrastructure, then technical advancement, transformation, AI is just a buzzword, nothing more.
Yeah, that's true. Communication is important, and I think back then in 2007, 8, you said 4G. It's unbelievable that this was new, and now we have 5G. When we look at Saudi Arabia today, can you share a success story in the tech world?
When I came into 2008 in Saudi Arabia, there was no Google Maps, by the way. And it was very hard to navigate. And Riyadh, or Saudi Arabia, being a very vast country, and Riyadh being a very vast city, and it is a very beautiful city in terms of it is made in grids, very vast roads, and it was very hard to navigate where you have to go, right? And the kind of transformation it went through from 2008 started off with the Riyadh Metro project, and then the inclusion of the Google Maps, and then you have the internet coverage, the mobile coverage. So it really transformed from something, because even when you have these kind of, how you should put it, the government was on the verge of doing something very great, right? But at the same time, there was a gray area in between. And in that particular gray area, I basically landed in that gray area. So first of all, it was like, okay, I don't know if I'm in the right country or not, but slowly and steadily, the transformation started in Riyadh particularly. The transformation of the roads, the transformation of single lines, the transformation of Riyadh Metro projects, the expansion of the mobile coverage, and then the banking transformation. I will rank in the top most, number one, because I've been through in the banking system in my home country. But the kind of banking system over here, and the way they were slowly and gradually going into the digital transformation, in terms of so many things, it was marvelous.
What I'm curious to learn is, my picture is probably very stereotypical of Saudi Arabia. So I remember that before the Saudi Arabians discovered oil or found oil in their country, it was basically a people of nomads. And they lived in the desert, and this was what we learned in school in Europe back in the 70s and 80s. And then they discovered oil, and the whole country evolved. Can you share more about the history of Saudi Arabia with the audience?
Well, in 1970s, it was the foundation for the ground laying groundwork for the ICT infrastructure in 1970s. This happened in the decade of 1970s. In 1980s, it's seen the first satellite communication system. It was probably the ArabSat in 1985. This pan-Arabic satellite communication, which connected the whole Arab world. In the 1990s, if you go in the 1990s, it was the introduction of the internet in Saudi Arabia. And the global internet came around about 1999 and 2000 with the introduction from CITC, Communication Information Technology Commission, in 2001. And in 2000 brought the real technology advancement into Saudi Arabia. And then you go into the 2010 area, which is more like, I call it a quantum leap, because there you introduce the ICT advancement, you have the LTE networks started, then you have the National Transformation Program. It started around about in 2016. And then in 2016, you had the 2030 vision. We will talk about the 2030 vision because I love it, the vision. And in 20s, during the pandemic, that is the golden, the pandemic was worst, for the humankind, but for Saudi Arabia in terms of transformation, that was the golden period, because I have seen the digital transformation of Saudi Arabia. For example, if you go in 2018 and you want to do any kind of card payment or any like an online payment, you will not, maybe like out of 100, you will find 10 stores accepting your card payments. And during the pandemic and post-pandemic, if you go on the retail outlets now, maybe one person will ask you for the cash. It's a huge transformation which happened in terms of the technology. And in that particular time period, you have the rise of the likes of the fintech companies, because you need the digital payments. You had the rise of the online e-commerce platforms. And then at the same time, you have the mobile application bombardment in Saudi Arabia, because during the pandemic, you were not able to go outside. We had the curfews, so we cannot go outside. So every second business had to go through some sort of a transformation in terms of online presence, e-commerce or applications. And then the government, they spotted a lot in terms of the network coverage. And when we came out of the pandemic, we were a very new country.
Is there so much change in just 2 years in Saudi Arabia?
No, I will not say that it was only in 2 years, because if you see in the early 2000, the government, I cannot say anything on behalf of the government. I can only give you a third-person perspective. But I have seen the continuity of the policies of the government, whether it is like the infrastructure, the national policies, or the geopolitical, whatever it is, but the continuation of the policies. And whenever the government change, it owns the policy of the previous government. So it all started in the 2000 when the government wanted to change its reliance of previously it was totally oil. They wanted to shift from oil to non-oil economy. So for that particular thing, as stated earlier, that network coverage was the topmost. You need to have a strong infrastructure support, and then you can build something on top of it. The government has a very continuous and steady policy which is going on. And now the inclusion of the 2030 vision, which is again the continuance of the same policy till 2030. So the infrastructure was there, but the pandemic, it's only triggered it. Maybe like it advanced it to like 5-6 years. That's what I will say.
That's great. I mean, when we stay a little bit in the past of Saudi Arabia, I think what stands out or still stands out in Saudi Arabia is the petrochemical industry and the oil industry. And it's rich with resources. It's, in my opinion, a good business, and has also given the government a lot of investment capital. I think I've read the biggest fund is close to $1 trillion in Saudi Arabia in the preparation, which is a huge amount. I think many countries would just think how many people when they say 1 trillion to invest, and when you go, it's interest rates are partially back to 5%. And when you look at the companies, at the big companies that deliver dividends constantly, I would just say, okay, but why not leaning back and just enjoy the fruits of a well-running business and also the investments. And I learned from what you said and also on the internet with the valuable information that you provided that Saudi Arabia wants to have a much more active role in the tech transformation, and you mentioned before, to move the entire economy from oil to non-oil. What I would be curious to learn is what sparked this interest, what motivates the government in Saudi Arabia to make this complete shift away from oil?
Well, as a third person perspective, if you have reliance on a single thing, maybe like oil or in particular case, oil, and you have a close to 34 million population, in which 65% is up to the age of 35. It's a very strong young base. And the globally technology is advancing. So the new generation need to spend their energies, need to know and need to learn new technologies in order to be in par with the rest of the world. So you need to make new revenues or new venues in the country so that every person should have his own set of area in which he can work in. So the government, it realized in early 2000 when I came in 2008, and I was surprised with one of the program of the government. The government was sending a lot of its young students or young people to the Western countries and in the major universities to learn technology, art, culture, law. So what they were doing, they were investing in their human resource at a particular time. Because if they want to transform from oil to non-oil, they need the human resource, right? The people who will be spearheading these kind of technology or these kind of sectors in Saudi Arabia. You cannot just say, let's change from oil to technology, and then you don't have anything at the background. So that's what I like the most about the government, because they planned something in advance, and then they were strategically moving in that particular direction. So when these youth, they came from these Western countries, so what they brought in the knowledge of the technology. They brought in, I mean, when they went over there, they were into multicultural society, right? So they learn how to react and how to live in a multicultural society, right? And the language barriers was dropped, because when they went over there, predominantly they were Arabic speaking. When they came back after like 4 years or 6 years, they were speaking Arabic. Of course, there was mother tongue, but at the same time, they were speaking English, they were speaking Japanese, Chinese, French, German. So they were speaking all these kind of languages, and they brought in the technology knowledge as well. So here, the foundation of oil to non-oil started. When they came back, they came up with the new ideas, right? So when they came up with the new ideas, then the government, they supported them in terms of realizing their dreams in terms of whatever technology they're working in. And then what the government did, they started the pilot programs of a knowledge transfer. Like when these students came back, they were injected into government or semi-government organization, and they started learning from the peers and the new technologies. That's how the government, it started shifting from oil to non-oil revenue stream. And this particular stream is still going on. And it's all part of the national strategy which the government has.
So in principle, I could summarize it that a few decades ago, the government in Saudi Arabia started to educate their children. You said, I understood you that 65% of the population in Saudi Arabia is below 35. So it's a particularly young generation. And they studied abroad in the UK, in France, in the United States, in Asian countries, and then came back home with a lot of new knowledge and know-how. And I can assume that the government then was challenged with the young people who said, okay, now we learned something and we want to do something. Is this a possible way to see it?
Exactly. I mean, they learn, and the young generation, whenever they learn something, they want to do something practical about it, right? Mm-hmm. And the government didn't even stop that. Okay, they have been educated. Okay, fine. They started giving them the venues where they can utilize their knowledge, utilize their expertise.
This is, I think there's still a jump, because what I saw in the material that you sent me and what I researched on the internet, I think it's clear to me that when the Saudi Arabians came back home, they want to do something that they get governmental support. But I think Saudi Arabia moves a step forward and also becomes an ecosystem that wants to attract external companies to move to Saudi Arabia. But correct me if I have the wrong understanding. And so far, it did not expect in Saudi Arabia that this move is so strong. Why did the government decide to also attract external companies as a startup ecosystem to move to Saudi Arabia?
You see, Saudi Arabia is a very big country. It has like 34 million of the population. And it has immense potential, right? The government, there is a government body, which is called Public Investment Fund. It has more than $900 billion funds at its disposal, right? And the country is going through every kind of a transformation, whether it is technology transformation, cultural transformation, or it is like, culture and digital transformation. It's what the government is going through. And all of these areas, the government needs the experts to come in. It's a very big pie to educate and to share the success with the government. So what the PIF, for example, what I have learned so far is what the PIF is going through, that it has identified 13 strategic sectors, right? And it has more than 93 companies. What the government is doing, because if you want to go from oil to non-oil, so one essential question will be, what will be that non-oil? What I have learned so far, it should be, or it is the tourism, right? So if the tourist comes in, do you just imagine the journey which the tourist will have starting from his own country, right? So what he will do, he will go on an online platform, he will apply for the visa, right? I mean, in 2008 or 7, 8, or up to 2010, it was very hard to come into Saudi Arabia, even for, if you want to come for a business or a job or whatever, because the whole process was very, very cumbersome. It was very hard. So now the government said if they want to move, they want the people to move freely inside. So they have to make a lucrative kind of offers to the rest of the world. So one thing they started is when you will come in, you will apply for a visa, right? So it should be an online process, right? So for a non-tech guy, it will be like a process. He will just fill in information. But for a technology expert, you will see that the moment he will fill in the information, it goes back to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, go back in the Ministry of Interior, goes through the whole KYC process, and then within 5 minutes you get the visa, right? So the process is running at the back end, right? These are the technologies which the government, they ask the global experts to come in and support them with the installation of these technologies, right? So here, the companies came in. Now the tourist, that particular tourist, he sits in an aeroplane and comes into Saudi Arabia. So the first thing he see is the immigration in front of the immigration officer standing in front of them. I vividly remember when I came, like in 15, 16 years ago, it was a queue of maybe like 100 and 150 people standing, right? And you are going through the biometric and this and this and that, so many things, right? And just recently, when I came back from the UN conference, when I landed, there was one smart young Saudi standing in front of me, and I started to move in a different direction for the immigration. He said, "Go to the e-gate." I said, took my passport, scanned it, and said, "Welcome." So, welcome. So you can understand how that e-gate is connected at the back end with the government, with all these kind of processes, right? The moment you come out, you need transportations, right? You have Uber, Cream, or other applications available. So you have a transport system. When you go out, obviously you will do the payments. You have the fintech system at the back end. And from there, you log in and you go for and reserve a hotel room, right? Again, it's all digitally what you're going through. And you do online payments, you do online check-in, you go over there, then you have the mobile application for the food delivery, you have online event ticketing system. So these are all things which is there for to support the tourists. But if you see at the back end, so many technologies involved, so many of the companies involved. So that's why if you come into Saudi Arabia, you have the companies who are providing cloud services, the companies who are providing the application support services. You have the company who are providing the fintech services. You have the company who are providing the logistics support services, the hoteling services, right? So all of these companies, Saudi Arabia cannot produce at its own. They need the global experts to come in. So the global companies, they saw the potential, they start pouring into Saudi Arabia. And they started doing and getting these kind of projects. So what is started with the government, because if the government don't have the digital footprint, forget about the KYC process. You cannot do your KYC process if government is not digitally on the line. The government first started from its own during the pandemic. And now that same thing is slowly and gradually moving into the corporate sector. And you will be surprised that more than 80% of the Saudi youth at some time is using a fintech application. 80%. Because the internet penetration is 99%. I mean, it's 99.99%, you can call it 100% penetration. So if you have 100% internet penetration and you have a mobile, so I don't think you will have the old version of only the digits mobile. You will have like smart mobile, you have some kind of application inside, right? So there you go. The companies are coming in. I mean, just day before yesterday, I was reading that the Oracle, they started a second cloud center in Riyadh, $1.5 billion, because it's everything is booming right now. So they have the Google coming in and the likes of other companies coming in, because they know, because when you have the application, you need the data centers. When you need the data center, you need the cloud coverage, you have the network coverage. So all these things are a part of the ecosystem. You go to one, then you jump to other, to jump to other, to jump to other, right? So when more of the companies will come in, you will have infrastructure requirement. For infrastructure requirement, you need the experts, companies from outside, and they bring in their expertise. There's a large pie, and it's have room for so many of the companies right now, because we will go further in detail in the podcast. that what government has planned for the future.
99% mobile penetration, infrastructure penetration when it comes to internet, also outside the big cities. So basically, when you drive through the desert, you have internet all the time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I will recommend you to come over here and enjoy the desert.
Oh yeah,
because now it will be the season of Riyadh season, and Riyadh season is a set of events which last from October till mid of Feb or March. Last year it attracted more than 270 no it's like 70 million people and 7,000 different kind of events, and it's big entertainment and eventful things going on in Saudi Arabia from October to mid of February.
70 million people.
Yeah.
70 million.
70.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. What events happen in this season? Can you
Sorry?
pick which kind of events happen in this season? Can you pick three
Okay.
events to give a picture?
Last year there were different concerts, like there was concert of the Beast. They have made a big area, like 5,000 square meter or something, or in fact more than that, in which they have the miniature models for all the big attractions. That were like, you have the small Venus over there. You have the small version of like to call it the Champs-Élysées over there. You have small lakes over there. And within that particular area, you had now the boxing event, you have the wrestling event, you have the major concert happenings in that particular time period. Then you have last time it was there were different kind of events which is going on right now. For this year, I don't have an idea, but I have the idea for the last year. And it was in Riyadh. When I used to go out, I see a lot of tourists going here and there. And I used to ask them, what are you doing over here? I mean, it's a simple question. We are just exploring. And I said, what did you explore? I said, it's a good city. People are very good. And I asked, what specifically you liked in or anything which you worth mentioning. And one of the funniest part was one of the tourists, he told me that when in the Europe we go out for the payment, we use only one hand to do the payments. But here in Saudi Arabia, I've seen people use payments with two hands. I said, how? I was a little bit surprised. I said, how? He says, when somebody wants to pay and he's with the friends, so in one hand, he has the card from which you want to pay. His second hand is on the mobile of his friend because he doesn't want him to pay. And we normally see what exactly going on. So they're using both of the hands. No, I will pay. No, I will pay. So it's kind of hospitality. That's the warm relationship we have in Saudi Arabia. And I asked him that, did you, personally experience this? He said, yeah, at times it happened that we are standing in front of the queue and we're trying to pay, and there is a random person standing beside us, and they said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Korea. Okay. What you're buying? He said, I want to buy something. And he said, okay, you buy this, this is good, this is good. And in terms of payment, this all the pays. I said, we were very surprised that what we have learned in the outside world about Saudi Arabia, they're very rigid people, but they are very nice people.
I do understand from your explanation that basically the core business, and I think the core industry still in Saudi Arabia is everything connected to the oil industry. Then the government added the perspective of tourism to the industry and included every technological innovation since the 70s with mobile phones, with the internet, 4G, we have tackled 4G,
Satellite.
also electric vehicles, I guess. In that, solar would be also, I mean, you have the desert and you have a little bit potential for sun. So they basically included everything that facilitates the oil industry and tourism in Saudi Arabia, also technologically, which brought in a lot of external companies to Saudi Arabia to help build up the
In different
infrastructure.
domains,
Yeah.
yeah.
But what I learned, maybe we can explore this further with Vision 2030. You mentioned it earlier. It doesn't stop there. So it's basically, we could say, okay, now we have tourism, now we have the oil industry, and let's just include what really benefits us short term. I think the Vision 2030 goes a little bit further. So they include also other technologies that might not be beneficial in the short term, but have more a long-term perspective. Can you expand a little bit on the topic Vision 2030?
Well, first of all, Vision 2030 started 2016. And the people, they think that 2030 is something which the government want to achieve. And maybe in terms of moving from oil to non-oil economy. But it's not all about oil. It's not about economy. It's a whole new different kind of a program. It has different factors in it, right? So within this, you have, for example, quality of life program. You will surprise that 2030 is one of the program of the government goal is to have the quality of life program. You have a housing program, you have health sector program, you have what do you call it, the human capacity development program is there. Then you have national transformation development program is over there. So financial is one part. You have entertainment and tourism. You have women empowerment. You have cultural preservation and innovation. And then you have the youth engagement, which is more than 65% of your total population. And then you have the social reforms, right? So if you can encompass everything, it will increase the quality of life, right? So in order to achieve everything, like there are more like 6-7 goals, the programs that the government is running, and plus minus. So within that particular framework, the government is, like, for example, the quality of life. Sorry, I have a bad throat. You have to increase the housing, right? If you increase the housing, you will need to have the smart infrastructure deployment, the network coverage deployment, the smart city initiatives will be there. You will be asking and inviting the companies or the institution across the world to come in and to bring in their new technologies. And when it comes to the human development programs, you will be surprised that as of last year, I was reading through the documents that Sadaya, the Saudi Arabia Data and Artificial Authority, they have trained in data and AI, both 600,000 youth. 600, I will repeat, 600,000 youth in data and AI, right? So this is part of the vision, right? So up to 2030, if the government is asking the companies to come in to chip in their expertise in terms of the advancement or in terms of the infrastructure, so the government, they have planned so many things in between so that when the companies come in, they have the steady flow of revenues. All the youth are integrated. The educational system is integrated. The fintech system is integrated, because if you don't create the venues for the tourists to come in, then you have a decline in terms of your revenues, your economy, non-oil economy. So you need the constant flow of tourists coming in. For that kind of tourists to come in, you need to have a constant flow of the activities in Saudi Arabia, right? If you might have seen that officially they put the bid for 2030 Soccer World Cup, right? And one astonishing thing which I will tell you, there is a project in Saudi Arabia which is called NEOM. NEOM is the name of the project, but within the projects there are like 12, 13 more projects. One of the projects is Trojena. And you will be surprised that in 2029, Saudi Arabia will hold the Asian Winter Games. Winter Games in Trojena.
How does it
Yeah.
work? I mean,
It's
I didn't, when I hear winter, I mean, I'm in Austria with mountains and with snow. So when I hear winter games, I think of skiing, everything
Exactly.
around skiing, sleigh riding, and all this biathlon, for example, cross-country skiing, I think is the English term. So everything that's connected with snow. I would not have connected in my mind Saudi Arabia being a mountainous country with a lot of snow. Maybe my picture is wrong. How does it work, Winter Games in Saudi Arabia? I'm just curious.
Because if you go in Neom, in that area, Trojena area, it snows over there in winter.
Really?
Yeah.
And I've completely the wrong picture then.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
It snows over there. And people, I mean, it will be a little bit sidetracked because the government knows the potential of the country, immense potential, right? If you know that in the mountainous regions, you have, like even in the desert, if you go in the desert in the winter, it's a very cool kind of scenery over there. I mean, the sand is a little bit like orange. On top of it is a layer of white. If you put your hands like this, you will have like a fudge cake, like brown in the lower and white on the top. You have snow blitzers in Saudi Arabia during the winter, and government knows the immense potential of what they have in the country, right? So why not develop that particular thing and attract more tourists? So I'm just giving you one example, which is Trojena, right? People will be coming in. So when they will come in, so Saudi Arabia don't have expertise in terms of conducting the winter games, because now they have developed. But what they ask for the experts to come in, right? Maybe from Switzerland, maybe from Austria. They came in, they told them, okay, that's how the things will be worked, right? And then the Saudi youth are working with them in the information transformation process. So by the time you will come in the 2029, you will find Saudi youth speaking different kind of languages and in the forefront in terms of all the activities which will be there, right? So this is one of the things which I have mentioned. So that particular NEOM is one of the area in which they have more than 12 projects, right? You have Red Sea project over there, which already 2021, they had the first tourist coming in, right? And the first key was delivered. Then you have other projects which are lined up. And another amazing thing, which I was reading like day before yesterday, the government had announced there is a project in NEOM, which is 177-kilometer long. It's a very long project. It's called The Line, right? It's 500-meter in height. And in that particular project, they will be having one stadium, which will be a hanging stadium, like in the bridge. And you have a football match over there. So I'm talking about 2034. So if 2034, there will be a match over there. So you can imagine if people ask, what is the timeline of these projects? So 2034, if the stadium is hosting 43 or 47,000 people over there, so they will not just take an helicopter and go over there, right? You will have the required civil infrastructure. You will have the required like hotels, transportations, each and everything, because 43,000 people is a large number. right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking, if, as you mentioned, this project. The line is this huge infrastructure project that I
In
think
Neom.
in Neom. Let me just show it to the audience. I just was using Google to. Here is a nice 800 billion line to nowhere.
Start from the north, so it's 177 kilometer, and it ends up in the coast.
This is pretty amazing. So let's just share the screen briefly.
So the skyscraper will have a linear expansion over there.
It's 500 meters high. Is
Yeah.
it?
And 177 kilometer long.
So here we go. I have opened a few.
Yeah, the first one, if you see there. Yeah.
So
The third one.
This is really so short term. I always thought when I read about it, here this one. When I read about it, I thought it's in the future, 50 years or something like that.
No. You just even, see, that's the kind of misconceptions people have about Saudi Arabia. I am telling you, in the next, when I have this caption, Saudi will be everything in future.
Yeah.
You imagine anything and you will find it in Saudi Arabia.
So you have this project which is 500 meters high.
Yeah.
And how many kilometers long did you say?
177.
Wow. And it's basically a city. It's basically a city. People will live there with the entire infrastructure in 500 meters high, skyscrapers, and a hanging stadium to play soccer.
Yeah.
That's pretty astonishing.
On the bridge.
When will it be finished?
If 2034 they want to have a match over there, then you can well imagine.
Should be finished before 2034 then.
Yeah.
So they are building. They are in the process.
If you go on the Google Earth and you see, you'll find it a large number of heavy machinery, excavators, and other large machineries right now moving just like small insects over there. So it's this particular thing is going on right now.
I think I have read about it that it should be the most advanced city in the world. Basically, the most technologically advanced city. Is that the right understanding?
Of course. See, the top of the line is the carbon footprint within that particular project. If I tell you, because they are now building the ammonia powered plants over there, so they to reduce the carbon footprint over there. In that particular line projects, all of the transportation will be underground. The city.
Mm-hmm.
There will be nothing on ground. So when we say nothing on ground, so that means the mobility, the large distance mobility will be underground. You have trams and lines over there. You have the train underground over there. You have the trucking system underground over there. So for all these kind of technologies, you need the global experts to come in, right? Here, the global companies are here. They're making consortium and they're taking the projects and they are building it. So this is one of the things which I mentioned in the line, right? So if you talk about Riyadh, which is the capital, right? There is a project by the name Qiddiya, right? Qiddiya will be a purpose-built entertainment city where you have Six Flags, you have Dragon over there, you have other attractions over there, right? And you will have a digital and the stadium over where they plan to have the final for Prince Mohammed bin Salman Stadium over there, where they plan to build have the Soccer World Cup final over there, right? So you can well imagine how the things are going and which direction the government is taking in terms of 2030 vision, right? So in 2030, there'll be Riyadh Expo in Riyadh. By the name Riyadh Expo 2030. right? And then you have 2030 Soccer World Cup. You have Asian games coming in, right? You have just recently we had the e-games, esports games.
Mhm.
Just recently have something like $65 million of uh, the prize money over there. And it was like a hub for all e-games people in Saudi Arabia. So doing e-games, I mean, I know you are from technology background. E-games, you cannot have e-games when you don't have the right infrastructure in place in order to support it, right?
That's true. That's true.
If you have like 0.001% of lag and you're playing an online competitive game, you will have issues, right?
Yeah.
So
Especially.
it will not have like one game going on in that in the e-World Cup. There are like thousands of games running in parallel, right? So many competitors, so many people coming in, so many people connected from abroad, right? The kind of infrastructure connectivity is provided.
Yeah, that's necessary. That's necessary. It's amazing what's going on there. I'm still stuck with the Line project and just try to figure out how many people did you read how many people will live there in this city?
Well, I don't have figures on top of my mind right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's really I have to change my picture about Saudi Arabia. So this means, I mean,
So
when
one thing is, I will recommend people to come to Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
Don't just Google it, right? Because in Vienna we had the same discussion regarding the biasness over there. So don't just Google it. I mean, do your own research. When you come into Saudi Arabia, they have a display center for the Line project, right? I was amazed by the kind of detail they have. For example, in that particular area where the people are going to live, what will be the plantation done over there?
Mhm.
So in the grass, what kind of a grass will be over there? In terms of small plants, what will be the plant over there? What is their natural habitat? How much it will grow? Because they don't want to have the bigger like herbs and shrubs over there. So they want something like in small sizes, right? And then they said they have a detail that what kind of like creepers will be there. So they have displayed each and everything in front of you. So if you are from like technology background, somebody from biology background, botanist, whoever his background is, whenever you go over there, he will say the kind of potential he see for his particular field over there. So this is one of the projects with the government has planned. If you see the other projects which are coming in, one of the projects which I like the most, which is a 7 entertainment project. 7 entertainment project is they are building 21, close to 21 entertainment center all across the kingdom.
Mm.
It will have indoor, outdoor door games, right? And it has like movie theaters over there. They have the bowling centers over there. They have other indoor games. They have the outdoor games, e-games. So they are building a huge complex. I mean, where I live right now in Riyadh, I have like in 2 kilometers of my radius, one of the biggest one they are building over there. And if you come and see, the gray structure is completed. The gray structure is completed. There are more than 21. So anyone who is from the entertainment industry, it's the right time for him to come. As we mentioned, the e-games, right? The esports. Anyone who the esport industry, he should be coming over here, right? Anyone who is in the tourism or cultural or the like movie production, he should be over here.
Movie
You have
production.
a yeah.
So it's
You
becoming
have a
another.
very vast land in Saudi Arabia, which is untapped, right?
Mhm.
Most of the areas you go over there, you see in the landscape over there, you feel like you are in Mars,
Mhm.
right? So immense potential. If you go on the mountainous regions, in like, you will find uh, carvings on the stone dating back like 5,000, 10,000 BC.
Wow. That's
So
that's amazing. It's a 5,000 to 10,000, so it's one of the earliest civilizations then there also.
exactly, exactly.
I think Babylon wasn't, I always thought Babylon was 6,000 years, 7,000 years ago.
So before that,
Before that. Wow.
yeah. So what the government knows the potential. I'm repeating my words. Government knows the potential of the country.
Mhm.
So within the same potential, they are bringing, then asking, putting everything together and going for the 2030 vision. And within that vision, they are encompassing everything, right? The people who live in the mountain region, they are educating and developing their skill set in terms of being tourist guides over there to help navigate the tourism over there. So they are bringing each and everyone within the country into the stream to have like a bright future. I was surprised a couple of days before that the kind of application that Saudi youth is making. One I particularly like the most is small social network application developed by one of the guy, a very smart guy, Abdul Hadi, Mesh. So I asked him why you have Twitter, you have like Facebook, why you have created Mesh, right? He said whatever content you read in LinkedIn or the other social media, it is the global, what do you call it, the presentation. You don't have the regional and the local footprint.
Mhm.
So the moment a tourist comes into Saudi Arabia, he need to know what are the attractions, what are the local joints, where should I go, where should I hang out with, what are the local attractions, right? And here he will be needing this kind of a platform that he will just come in, log in, make a membership, and you will communicating with the local people. And with the AI technology, you don't have any issue with your language barrier. So just imagine you coming in,
Yeah,
have that particular application, and you don't need to ask anyone that where should I go. You only have to like type, and you will find you make friends, and you will know where exactly I have to go, where are the fun areas I should go, right? So I will share a story. In 2008, when I came to Saudi Arabia, the only perception I had was the Hollywood perception. I will be very dead honest about it. Is that you will find the kind of stereotyping you find in Hollywood that okay, the random Arab person come in, he has wearing this and say Allahu Akbar, and then I mean I'm not an illiterate person. I'm to some extent I have some uh, education, but even I had this perception in my mind that I will go over there and it will be very difficult to navigate, right?
Mm.
So one day I was with my friends going out uh, into the other city. At that times, there was no Google Maps. So I asked one of the guy. He was filling on the petrol station that I want to go into this area. Where should I go? He was telling me in Arabic, and I was trying to understand in English. Then he was saying like, Sida, Yamin, Isar, I mean, right, left, and go. And like said, I said, okay, 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 okay. Whatever I can understand, I just sit in my car and I moved. Like 1 or 2 minutes, when I saw in the back mirror, the guy was coming right behind me. And that honest, I got scared. I said, why he's coming after me? So I just take a random right turn. He came behind me. I take another turn. He came behind me, and I was super scared. I said, oh, okay, no, I have a problem now. And then he just crossed, came in front of us, and he stopped. And we decided, sitting among that, we will not come out. We've not even rolled down our windows. He's come in, he said, knock on the window. And we were like, okay, should we roll down? Should not? Okay, then we said, okay, he's one person, we are three. If there was any problem, we will fight. Okay, he rolled down. And out of my surprise, you know what did he said?
No.
He chased us like odd for 7 to 10 minutes. He said, in his Arabic and what we can understand, he said, I told you to go left and you took right.
Oh.
You're going on the wrong direction. If you go on this direction, you will be lost. And we were like, oh, that was the stereotyping. And then he said, okay, he said, follow. So we followed him. And then we came to that junction. He said, go up over there. And the next 1 hour, we were ashamed of ourselves that what we thought of the person. And he spent 7 to 10 minutes of his precious time to come after that, tell us, you're going on the wrong direction. So this is the kind of stereotyping the outside Saudi Arabia people have about Saudi Arabia. So the moment you come in, you log into these kind of application, you will understand the warmth, the hospitality of the people.
Mm. Yeah, that's very kind. It's very kind to drive after you. Someone else could also have said, okay, took the wrong turn. Why should I care?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the most important part for this 2030 vision is the women empowerment, which is around about 52, 53% of the population. Right? So you cannot neglect this population out if you want to grow in a certain direction, right? You will be surprised. And I mean, I'm literally surprised that this particular storm was in making, because now when we hire someone and we read their resumes and say, oh, okay, she got bachelor's from US or UK in 2002 to 2006. So that means in that time period, she was there educating herself. So they know they have the right skill set, they have the right mentality, and they have the right approach, and they have the government given them the exact right platform to grow. And if you come into Saudi Arabia, you find the women everywhere in every kind of technology, non-technology, hospitality, retail. I mean, you name anything, and they are there. Well-educated, well-spoken, and bilinguals. When I say bilingual, I don't say English and Arabic, by the way. It's like a third, like English is there, like Arabic, Chinese, Arabic, French, Arabic, German, Arabic, Spanish. And it's a real surprise. So this is everything which encompasses the 2030 vision. Do you have the technology development? You have the human capacity development over there, right? You have the reform in the education system. You have reforms in the financial systems. You have reform in the supply chain, like the whole logistic systems in the country. So everything encompasses to build the 2030 vision. And I will close my remarks on it. For every kind of a vision or any kind of a program, if you don't have the buy-in from your nation, it's just a program in the paper. So you will find, I didn't find anyone who don't have the buy-in for 2030 vision. The youth are super excited. And government is giving them every kind of a support. So that's what you're, yeah.
When we look at doing business in Saudi Arabia, so I understood from what you said that there is a huge exchange in Saudi Arabia, and the government wants to move towards becoming a global player in all tech areas. Basically, that it's pretty much, I think, the same with Europe and the US. So it's the potential to connect the world via Saudi Arabia, also with Europe, with the US, with Asia, and exchange information and exchange know-how. When I started traveling the world, I learned that it's becoming a global family, but there are still some subtle nuances like negotiation. The US people like to negotiate and like to negotiate prices. And when I think of Japan, back in 2007 or 8, it was sometimes really, it's like insulting someone when you start negotiating a price. What I would be curious to learn from you is when we think about doing business with Saudi Arabia, what are the top misconceptions Westerners have about doing business in Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia is as normal country as the rest of the world when it comes to business. It follows the same international laws, and they have incorporated those laws into their local law system, because when you attract the foreign direct investments, because the foreign direct investment FDIs was in 2001, it was like 1.7 billion, and last year it was close to $19 billion. So you tend to have agreements, right? You tend to have corporates coming in, and you are inviting the corporates to relocate themselves, right? The one and foremost thing which I understand is you need to understand the culture first. Saudi has a different business and social culture. It is not as per the culture which is there in the West. You have a little bit different culture. If you go for a meeting, for example, the first 5-10 minutes is all ice breaking.
Mhm.
You ask about how are you, how is family, how is your extended family, how is your life. You ask about the well-being of the other person, which you don't have this. I mean, to some extent, when I travel to West, we come straight to the talk. Like first minute, okay, what's the deal? How it would be? What's the percentage? Now, in Saudi Arabia, it's different, right? It's first human to human connection, which I love the most, right? Because it's a long-term transaction with you. You need to understand the person first, and then you come into the business negotiation with them, right? You have your own cultural standards over there, right? So initially, when you have the ice breaking, they provide you, for example, Saudi coffee or something, right? You will be surprised if they offer you something you decline. It's considered as like, okay, out of etiquettes, because they're extending something and you're not accepting it, right? I'm not talking about the family offices, because this is a different direction. Because normally when you come in for the family offices, they're large corporates, large family businesses over here, and all the bigger families, they have their like group of companies, they have their own portfolio of organizations, and still the decision is made by the top, right? It's like you have the grandfather, you have the father, and then you are working over there. So you don't bypass, right? Everything decision is made on the top, and you just fill in your information which goes on the top. And here in Saudi Arabia, you have to consider the time. Let me put it in the right word. They take things little bit on the easy track. Easy track means they don't jump up to the conclusion. They take each and everything in the due course of time to understand, and then come to any kind of agreement, right? Previously, I will again use the word biasness over there. The Saudi youth, the business over here, they're very, very professional. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they want, where they are, and where they want to go, right? So any foreigner who comes in to do the business in Saudi Arabia, he should have first know the culture, right? Know the culture of the person, know the culture of the company he's working with. For example, I will give you an example. You go in the West, you talk to someone, you call him from his first name, right? Here, people love and honored if you call him by the name of his elder son or daughter. For example, if somebody's son name is Abdullah, so you call him Abu Abdullah, means father of Abdullah. So he will be pleased by how you're calling him. And if he is like an elder person, his name is Fahad, and you ask him, Fahad, it will be like not in the culture. I mean, you don't call somebody at that stage with his first name. You normally call him with his elder son or elder daughter name. So the people coming in, they might not understand it, but they find a little bit of cold shoulder by the person. And they said, oh, we didn't do anything. I mean, we just say this, okay, 2, 3, 2, 4, but how? Why? So these few cultural things which we have to understand, right? Like if somebody, you have a teacher and sitting in front of you and sitting in front of him cross legs, it is considered as, again, ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these kind of few cultural things you need to learn before coming into Saudi Arabia to go into any kind of a business deal with anyone, right? When in case their females are there, right? You don't just suddenly extend your hand to shake, right? If the other side is extending, fine, well and good. If they're not extended, don't extend. So as far as the general set rules are there, I mean, it's as standard as rest of the world. If you have laws and regulation, each and everything, because government is taking care of it. I'm not talking about the cultural few things which the foreigner should understand or learn before coming into Saudi Arabia, going into any kind of a business deal or communication with any of the locals over here.
So let's dive a little bit into what you said. There are no handshakes in Saudi Arabia. So it's how is the formal greeting in Saudi Arabia?
I'm not saying it's no formal handshakes. I'm just saying you have two different genders, male and female, right? Males, of course, you always extend your hands to shake hands with them, right? With female, it's on both sides. If the other part extends the hands, then you extend the hand. If they don't extend the hand, you don't extend the hand, because it's culture, right? So it's mix of culture. If your counterpart is sticking to the culture, you respect it, right? It's not that it's a disgrace or degrade for you that no, someone is not shaking hands. I'm talking about the females, right? It's the culture. If they want to stick to the culture, you have to respect that. If they want to take one step further and want to shake hands with you, it's okay, fine, it's normal. But you should not feel like ashamed, or you should not feel like, okay, I tried to shake hands, but this is shake hands. Maybe this is, again, etiquettes and manners. Maybe they didn't like us. No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
That's good to know. What would be your recommendation when someone, for example, is looking for investments in Saudi Arabia and is invited to a formal business meeting to elaborate whether the investment case is something that is interesting, and the European person understand the office for the first time? How should the European person approach the partners in the meeting? What is your recommendation?
I have one comment on it. I don't know why this question is particular with it. You should feel as normal as anyone. As normal as anyone. That's it. Be yourself. There is nothing special about it. I don't told you about that particular cultural thing with the females. I mean, it's as normal as anyone. You don't have to pretend something. Just be natural. Be yourself. I mean, it's a very easygoing and very cool place. Yeah. I mean, not in terms of weather, but in terms of business, it's very cool and smooth place.
Yeah. So when I understood you right, the right way to approach a man in a meeting is, which I think for me is quite unusual as Austrian, is to call him by the name of his son or daughter, so father of Abdullah. It means for a business meeting then that you need to do a little bit of research. So if whether this person has kids
No,
or
no, I
not.
mean, see, it's okay. Let me put it another way. When you go for a business meeting, you don't know who the person is, right? You go over there, you call him the first name, and you in the initial like 5-10 minutes, it's more like a business coaching, right?
Mhm.
In the first couple of minutes, when you do the ice breaking, you ask him how are you, and you ask him about his family, each and everything, and then you ask him about his like you like yourself to be called. So he said Abu, like for example, Abu Abdullah, Abu Aisha, whatever. So this is in the first 5 or 10 minutes of your ice breaking, right? There where you connect with the person, right? If you don't have the ice breaking, you just still go for a simple meeting. Fine, it doesn't matter.
That's interesting. That's interesting. There's a lot of cultural nuance then that
No,
is it a bit
it's a
different?
basic one. It's a
Mhm.
basic one. You don't. I mean, think that there's so many of the cultural things over here. But fine, culture is culture. But in few things which you need to understand. That's it. I mean, every country, every region has its own culture,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
it doesn't affect the business. But if you want to have a longer relationship with your host or with the person, you need to understand his cultural understanding and limitation, because there's the relationship grows.
Mhm.
If you want to
Yeah,
grow the relationship. And
that's a
here
good.
the relationship grows. The business and the relationship grows hands in hand. I mean, together. It's not like you will have only one relation. I mean, both the things grow together. Where they have the highest. I mean, I like the hospitality, the warmth in the people, and so when somebody is extending the hospitality, that means you will have a longer relationship with them. So in order to cater that relationship, you need to understand the culture.
What's the best way to learn about the cultural specialities in Saudi Arabia? What would you recommend when someone is interested to better understand the similarities and differences between Saudi Arabia and European countries?
There are, I mean, similarities are more, differences are very, very less. And the first and foremost will be your own, like you can Google on the internet about the government websites where they have given the rundown or introduction of the culture and on the of the country. The government websites. Don't go on XYZ website and then you read something, and when you come into Saudi Arabia, you find the difference. You say, what was that? That authentic government website. I mean, most of the missions in across the world for Saudi Arabia, you find their website and all the information which is required, right? So the information, you might be thinking the information which I'm providing you is something like, okay, fine, I had this experience, but at the same time, this information is available on the government website and government internet over there. You can go over there and you can check what exactly is available, and you can simply follow it. And I mean, rest assured, the people here are very, very accommodating, very accommodating.
Mm. So basically,
Oh,
it's you said they speak several languages, so Spanish, French, English, of course, Chinese, Indian languages. So should not be. So it's not really necessary to learn Arabic as a foreigner when you want to do business with Saudi Arabia.
well, I mean, majority of the youth is speak English,
Mm.
majority of them. And when it comes into the business dealing, business communication, I won't be wrong. In fact, more than it will be 100% who are speaking English.
Mm.
Maybe you will say it's 60% proficient, maybe 40% not proficient, but in totality, it will be 100% speaking English, right? So you don't have the you don't feel that I don't speak Arabic, so I will have problems over there because I live in Saudi Arabia for the last 15 years. I don't speak Arabic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when I came over here, I tried to learn Arabic. My colleagues, the Saudi colleagues, they want to learn English. I said, come on, I want to learn Arabic. Speak to me in Arabic. They said, no, we want to learn in English. So at the end, they won. I lost.
Mm.
So I talked to them in English. So I didn't learn Arabic. I mean, to some extent, I can make myself understand, I mean, a little bit. But that shows the eagerness of the youth to learn the new skills and the new technology. So
It's
when you come over here, you will not have any issues in terms of speaking a different kind of a language.
what is your mother tongue? You said Pakistan. You are coming from Pakistan. Which languages do you speak?
In Pakistan, we speak a language which is called Urdu.
Mm.
Urdu. Urdu is a mixture of Persian, Arabic, and Turkish,
Wow.
but have a different dialect.
Mhm. How many people speak this language?
In Pakistan,
Mhm.
all of them. It's
Urdu.
a national language.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And in Saudi Arabia, you get along well with English.
Yes.
That's good to know. Then the entry barriers are really low.
Sorry.
Then the entry barriers, language-wise, are really low. When in business, when you get along with English very well, there is no language barrier.
There's no language. I told you, there's no language barriers. All of the contracts which you do in Saudi Arabia is in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it contracts in English until unless you communicate with the government. Government will have Arabic and English, but normally the companies will do their contracts. There is in English.
Because this is usually one of the, in the age of AI, everything shifted a little bit, but before the age of AI, this was one of the, especially for small companies, it was sometimes not so affordable to pay translators to translate the contract from the mother tongue, from the original country, is China, for example, to English, and grasp all the subtleness in the language. But when you say that Saudi Arabia switched to English contracts, then it's very easy because it's just the same everywhere in the world when someone wants to do a global business.
I mean, the contracts are in English. When the corporates do their contract with each other, it's in English. Normally, you'll find English and Arabic, like two columns, English and Arabic, but English are always there. English is always there. And I was reading day before yesterday that this year the government, they are injecting 800 teachers into the education system. They have close to 500,000 teachers, 800 teachers to teach Mandarin to the students over here, the people over here. So they are injecting in terms of. When I came, I know that they were teaching French and they were teaching Spanish, but this time I have seen that they will be teaching the Mandarin language because you have flow of the Chinese over here. So you will teach your students from grade like 1 and up to speak their language. But again, answering to your question, English.
Now, Mandarin, I'm not so quite sure if many Europeans speak Mandarin, but I think English is very well accepted in the European Union. And I had a conversation this morning with a company. They switched also to English, Austrian company, where they said we just do English contracts. It's so much easier when they want to deal with the world.
Yeah, I mean, English. I mean, you should not be worried about in terms of communication. You should not be worried about in terms of the business communication is English.
That's right. When we shift gears in the conversation and look about the startup ecosystem, so I learned from you that government is investing heavily. What about the incubation programs or support for startups, international startups? I mean, in Europe we have the problem that funding for companies around the Series A phase is pretty much the cutoff point. It's very difficult to get huge funding rounds after that. So some people might think about moving to Saudi Arabia when they listen to the conversation. And how is the world there for startups? What is the culture in Saudi Arabia when it comes to starting companies?
we started this discussion that Saudi Arabia is a country of innovation. And Saudi Arabia has the biggest appetite in terms of innovation. And when it comes to innovation, innovation doesn't come itself. You need to fund it, right? And what the government is doing, I mean, I've been part of few startup companies myself, that they are inviting the new technologies, the people across the globe to come to Saudi Arabia and pitch their new ideas over here. There are a lot of like 12, 13 incubator programs over here, governed by the government itself. One of the biggest, which I like the most, is the Garage, run by one unique gentleman, Umar Shaban. Why I like the most about this person is the person, whenever I saw him, he's just running around, I mean, making things happen. And he's always in meetings, right? So you can understand that when Bill Gates came into Saudi Arabia, the first stop he did out of his, the whole routine was to go straight to the garage and see what exactly is happening over there. There are a lot of startup companies over there under the program of NTDP, which is National Technology Development Program, and Sadaya. So they have a lot of programs which they are inviting the startups to come in. So it is a combination of grants, it's a combination of funding, pre-seed, seed, MVP. You are a Series A, Series B. If you are an established SME and you have a certain revenue, you want to have the corporate mobility come into Saudi Arabia, the government is supporting that as well. The government is supporting in terms of funding. If you want to do your POCs, generous funding is over there. And if you want to do your corporate mobility, they will give you with the tech hands. They have a program, NTDP has a tech hands program. They'll give you the local youth in that particular technology area, because when you come in, you need to build your team, right? You need to build your local team. So they will give you, okay, these are technologies I need. Then NTDP will provide you the resources. Okay, these are the local talent available. You can incorporate in your teams over there. So more than like in the last year, it was 45 companies so far, which the Garage has incorporated in terms of cohort 1, cohort 2, cohort 3, and then these cohorts are coming up. And the funding is being done by, grants are being done by NTDP. And one of the best thing which about these programs, when it is Takadum, whether it is Flagship Labs, or it is Garage or Gaia, which is $1 billion fund, is they don't leave, and MISC, of course, which is Mohammed bin Salman Foundation. They don't leave you when you are done. When you come over here, they give you the funding, they give you the space, they give you the right technology. They have the technology partners who are more than willing to give you all the technological needs you have. And they have credit programs, like NVIDIA have the credit programs, they have the, like OCI have the technological programs which are providing. And then when you go for the demo day, they're the best thing I like. When you go for the demo day, the accelerator programs, they know the ecosystem of the VCs within the kingdom. So they invite those VCs into the demo day. So once you are there on the demo day and you pitch in front of your these VCs, so most of them, they get their funding right away. Because they are bringing those companies in. And once you are graduated, they don't leave you. Then they open the door of the government, semi-government, and the large enterprise for you. If you tell that I have, let's say, I have a technology for the computer vision, top of it, I'm running my AI application. So can you help me in securing a POC? Then they will tell you, okay, we know this particular large organization. Let us open the doors for you. So what they will do, they will put the right person in front of you, and then you go over there, give your elevator pitch. You tell them, this is my product is, and I want to go for the POC, right? Normally, when you go for the POC, you have like a practical implementation of any kind of a technology. You need funding, right? So anti-DP, they have a generous funding. They provide you with the funding of across around about $200,000. So you do the POC funded by the NDDP. And if your POC is successful, so that means you will enter into a financial agreement, like a commercial agreement with the organization. And then you start your revenue stream, right? So that's a typical ecosystem for the startup companies, right? The government has listed more than approved 52 to 53 venture capitalists in Saudi Arabia. It's not like just somebody come in, okay, I want to fund you. They have regularized the funding system as well.
53 funds, 53 venture funds.
52 to 53 venture capital funds, yes.
For a population of 4 million. Oh, sorry, how many inhabitants does Saudi Arabia have?
38 close.
This is a very high density of venture funds.
Sorry?
For 38 million. This is a very high density of venture funds. So it's 53 venture funds for 38 million Saudi Arabians.
No, so 38 million people are not going to go have a startup.
Yeah, but when I compare it with other regions of the world, I think this is pretty astonishing that there are so many funds in Saudi Arabia.
And these are the approved government funds. I mean, if you want to make your own venture capital, you need to register with the government. You need to have so many pre-qualification done. So the moment you do the pre-qualification, then there you are. So up till 52 to 56 are there. I'm not talking about the large one, the PIF. I'm not talking about the large ones, which is like $900 billion. I'm not talking about the large ones. I'm talking about the funds which for the startups.
How much investment capital do you think is available currently, ready to invest in early stage companies? When I talk about early stage, I think about up to Series A. How much capital is waiting for companies, in your opinion, at this point in time? Just a rough estimation to get an
again, it's a chicken and egg kind of a question. It's a chicken and egg kind of a question, because when I told you that $900 billion plus minus for the PIF. PIF itself is a venture capital. If you have a bright idea, forget about 52, 53. You will get the funding from PIF itself. So there you go. You have they have pocket $900 billion. It depends what kind of idea you have. What kind of sector you are coming in, what kind of gap you're filling, right? What is your value proposition over there, right? And you pitch it in front of your investors. And then there you go. These are the registered ones. I'm not talking about the family offices and other ones. They forget about that. They have billions of dollars.
Okay.
And they have their own consulting arm. They have their own technical or technology consulting arms. The moment you come in with any kind of your bright idea that I have this idea and I want to work in this particular category, then they will evaluate you and they will do the funding. So the 52, 53 are the ones which are registered with the, what do you call it, the Ministry of Investments. The regulated one, right? The family offices, the other one, they are separate.
Okay, so there are much more funds than, so this 52, 53 is the government funds. They're registered officially. And then you have, whole lot of family offices, people investing in startups, which means for startups in the United States, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, it's worth looking towards Saudi Arabia when they plan the long-term future of the company. I just think about drug development. I mean, this was the area that they operated in since 2006. You need roughly a few $100 million to move forward when someone wants to establish a real business. So with a pipeline of several drug candidates to develop new therapies and new medicine. What I understood from the Vision 2030 idea, quality of life and longevity and health is a topic in that area. So Saudi Arabia potentially would have the capital to also fund companies operating in that area. And it's worth looking towards Saudi Arabia for investments.
See, it's not only investment. I mean, we come over here, you have a technology which can blend in, which is a value proposition, and it can add into the digital transformation of the country. And since it's a very big country and it has immense potential, if you have a product and you bring it over here, it's a value proposition. The sky is the limit. Because during pandemic, there was one company. It was a fintech company. It is, in fact, a fintech company. And the simple idea was that whatever you buy, you can pay back in installments.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The company name is Tamara. This is the first Saudi unicorn. When did it started? Just before the pandemic.
A good point to start a fintech.
Yeah, it was like they got a funding of $215 million, right? Then you have list of companies who are getting like $1 million of funding.
Mm-hmm. When we think about funding in Saudi Arabia, what's a compelling pitch to Saudi Arabian investors? I just think about many companies, for example, in Europe, when they fly to the US to find funding, they have the idea in mind that they keep the company in Europe and just fly over there and get some funding and develop the company in Europe, which usually, in my opinion, doesn't fly with the US because US investors want to see a story that moves the US forward and helps their economy to evolve. So the ideal pitch would be we create a company and we grow the operations in the United States to support the local economy. What's the attitude in Saudi Arabia when someone wants to attract investment capital from Saudi Arabia? What kind of development plan would you recommend that it makes sense to invest time to pitch to Saudi Arabian investors?
When I was there in Vienna, I had a discussion with a few people over there. And of course, I will not name them. But the essence which I got out of that conversation was that people will just come into Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, people have a lot of money.
Mm.
And they will just tell them that I have this idea, I need 100 million. That's it. Yalla, take this. And there you go. No, it is not going to be like this. I told them, no, it is not like this. And then I had a discussion with one of a co-founder who came into Saudi Arabia, and I had a discussion with him in one of the accelerator programs, and he was like, I didn't get the funding. What should I do? So I asked him, how did you plan to get your funding? Right? He said, I went out to large organizations and I asked for the funding. So I asked him, how did you pitch up? And what's the timeline you have defined to get the funding? And what do you think you will get the funding? And he said, I will just go over there. I have the pitch deck. I will pitch it to the board over there. And then after the discussion, they will ask us, okay, we will do funding. I said, man, the way you're describing it is not funding. It's more like like an auction. You go over there, say the one, okay, 50, 100, okay. It doesn't go like this because the decision in corporates is different. When you go into the family offices, it's a different kind of decision. You cannot implement your go to market kind of an attitude for corporate and the same for the family offices because totally different. In corporate, yes, you're right. You will go over there, you give the presentation, they will ask you, okay, sit with our technology guy, they will see the gap, they will do the evaluation, and they will come up with the discussions. Okay, that's the potential of this particular startup in Saudi Arabia, and it is in line with the 13 strategic sectors which the PIF already have defined, right? Because if the government is going in one direction, you cannot build in your startup in a different direction. If they're going south and we want to go north, even if you have a bright idea, you have to go where the national strategy is going, right? So that goes for the corporate. When it goes for the family offices, they have a different procedure, right? Because what is a family office? Family office is like they are 4, 5, 10, 15 people from the same clan with the same family, each having their funding and sitting together, right? So these decisions are not made in the boardroom. These decisions are made maybe like outside in a desert camp, in a summer camp over there, sitting together, eating like having the Saudi coffee, and they say, okay, I have this company, I want to invest. Do you have any idea about this? Somebody says, okay, I want to, I plan to invest like 1 million. They said, okay, chip my 1 million in it as well, right? That's how they are funding, right? Of course, that will go through a due process in terms of their consultant who would take care of technology, each and everything, right? The decision making is different. Decision making is totally different, but it all depends upon your idea and your value proposition which you are bringing in, right? I mean, you have interviewed a lot of people. You cannot just come in and you don't tell them that that's my Tam, Sam, or Sam. I don't have you're providing the hard numbers, right? You're not providing the growth, and then you say, okay, I didn't get the funding because I had a chat with 500 Global and asked only one question: what do you see in startups when you do the funding? They said the first thing we do see is who the founders are. If we believe in them, then we are going to fund his idea, because if the founder, he doesn't own what he is saying, he's not passionate about it, right? And we don't see his capabilities in terms of growth, then bright ideas dies if you are not happy with your own idea. So if he is passionate, we will go for it. So when you come in, there's so many factors, because I consult one of the family offices. I mean, I have a checklist. I will not be telling you. I have a checklist, right? Okay, is for, telling you like, okay, the idea is good. You have a unique selling point, market growth, market potential, who the person is, who the co-founder are, and what are their commitment to their startup. If all the things adds up, plus the evaluation process, then you start talking to the person. Okay, what are you offering? How much equity you want to liquidate? And what we will be funding? And that's the plus and minus other things which will be added on top of it.
I think you tackled three crucial areas where I learned there are so many misconceptions in the world about these three areas generally when it comes to funding. Maybe we can dissect it a little bit. The first one is the timing of funding, the timeline. That it's not you just fly somewhere and talk to an investor for 5 minutes and then you get the big check and fly home. The second one is, I believe, it should somehow connect to the ecosystem of the investor. So it should somehow benefit his direct environment. And the third one, the third misconception, is being passionate about the idea in a way. I mean, what I see very often here in Europe is founders who say, I I saw that 100 companies do something and 10 of them got rich, and I want to be rich too. So I started in this area. I'm now the company 101, and I'm in there for 18 months, and then I will have the big exit and we all will all be rich. It doesn't really fly. Uh, how do you see these three areas?
Again, it depends which stage you are in. If you're an idea, seed, pre-seed, series A, so every stage have a different requirement, right? If you already are at the stage of series A, then yes, that thing applies. That you come in, fly in for 10, 15 minutes, had a meeting with the customer, with the investor, you give him the pitch because you already have the revenue numbers, you already have each and everything in place. You don't have to do much of the work. And they say, okay, fine, good enough. We will have internal meeting and we will let you know. And then there you go. Same applies to series B or series C. I mean, the more you go forward, the more mature you get in terms of your revenues and numbers and your market presence, right? My earlier comments were for the seed, pre-seed, and idea, MVP kind of stages in which you don't have a traction in the market. Market doesn't know you. You just have an idea. Maybe few people know you. Maybe few corporate know you. And then you want to have the funding done by any of the VC. There you need to prove yourself. You have to prove your mettle. Same what I have told you, you have summarized. You have to focus on these areas. And then if you are a little bit mature, then of course, as you said, even you don't have to come, by the way.
Oh, really?
You don't have to come because the family offices and the companies, they are portfolio companies. They always look out for the companies where they can invest in and which can generate them more revenues. They are very proactive.
Okay. So they're
also very proactive companies. Yeah?
They also invest outside Saudi Arabia in private in private companies.
Yes, of course. If you see, I mean, if any of the listeners, they want to know exactly what are the domains, they can connect with me on the LinkedIn, and I will send them the areas and the companies which they have already announced that we have invested in. They already have the IPOs, and they will know that which companies the Public Investment Fund has invested in, or the companies, the 52 or 56 companies where they have invested in outside the boundary of Saudi Arabia.
So when we look at the early stages, it's clear that you have to fly there and to talk with people and prove that you are passionate about the area and move forward. The thing that you mentioned now is for established companies. So when companies already have a customer base, have employees, have proven that their business model works, and they are now looking for investment to scale faster. Saudi Arabian the official government funds, the registered funds with the government, and also the family offices are highly interested also to invest capital outside Saudi Arabia and established companies.
Exactly.
When the case promises that the company is growing, of course.
Of course, I mean, you see, they're establishing a portfolio, and portfolio is not restricted to the country. I mean, what portfolio is, you should have investment in different sectors, in different geographies. You should have investment in different kind of sectors. That's how the whole portfolio works, right? So if you see the PIF portfolio, you will find, I mean, recently they are launching the Riyadh Air. Riyadh Air is like international airline services they have started. I mean, it will be soon started. So it's a kind of investment, right? So any company who are related with the aviation, there you go. I was seeing one of the project with one of the companies over there, and they wanted to implement a conversational AI project. And I was surprised, I will not name them, that the company from the US who bid it for this project ended up being acquired by the organization.
Cool.
They came for the project and ended up being bought by the organization.
It's not a bad place to be.
I mean, you need to understand where the government is going, where the fund is investing. And if you are in the same sector, if you're, following the same path, it will be very easy.
Mhm. We met in Vienna at the conference at the premises of the United Nations. It was about artificial intelligence in developing countries. So it means basically, for example, for artificial intelligence companies, and you are very proficient since you are sitting on board of several AI companies. It means that established companies with a track record, with a customer base, can easily get funding in Saudi Arabia, also when the company has no plans to relocate to Saudi Arabia.
I mean, you asked two different questions. If they don't plan to relocate into Saudi Arabia, or don't want to extend their business into Saudi Arabia, which is itself is a bigger market, right? Then there's a question mark. Why is there a question mark? Because if there is a country which is spending heavily on the digital transformation, they have an appetite for every kind of a technology, and that particular company doesn't want to grow into Saudi Arabia, then you need to question its strategy. You need to question its strategy. And one of the things which we discussed in Vienna was that most of the countries which were discussed and praised by the whole audience over there, most of the countries, they don't have the data and AI frameworks. In Saudi Arabia, last year, SADAIA, which is the Saudi Arabia Data and Artificial Intelligence, they have the data and AI framework established last year, September. The government exactly knows where they are going. If they are inviting the tech companies, the data analytics companies and AI companies to come in, then they perfectly know that what kind of a framework is required. They have already have that framework in place.
Mm-hmm.
And since that framework is in place, so they're asking companies to come in. When I have asked, like 80% of the youth is somehow using a fintech application. So that means you cannot just come in, organizations can come in and they say, okay, we have this application we want to run. Like the Saudi central bank, they have a sandbox in which you have to test your applications, right? You have to test your whatever fintech idea you're bringing in, because the government, they need to protect the data and privacy of their people, because the people trust the government. And the trust is built because of the Vision 2030. So if they have the blind buying into the government is taking the equal responsibility to making sure that the interest of their nation is in place. So this is one of the reasons that the government is asking one of the major companies when they come in to relocate into Saudi Arabia, to bring their services locally host in Saudi Arabia. There are more than 50 cloud services providers, local cloud services providers in Saudi Arabia. And if you see into the data center ecosystem in Saudi Arabia is booming. Mm-hmm. The next thing we are talking about in the semiconductors and these kind of areas. And the government is investing because government knows by the 2034, if you have like, let's say 120 million people coming into as a tourist in 1 year, so you need to have a strong infrastructure in place. And if you come in as a tourist and you feel protected, and you will feel protected in Saudi Arabia, then government need to have the same safety for the physical protection and the cybersecurity controls, which mandated by the NCA, which is the National Cybersecurity Agency, and the SADAIA, the the Protection Authority. They have the same mandate to make sure that you are digitally safe and you are physically safe. Physically safe, you are, that is 100% sure physically safe, but digitally safe, you need to be digitally safe, right? So the moment you come in, you feel like relaxed in terms of using any other application which is in Saudi Arabia, because you understand the government has done their due diligence process at the back end, and they make sure that whatever you are using is 100%, maximum to the 100% is secure for you to use or utilize in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, security and privacy are very important. I think this is one of the strong selling points of Apple, that they sorry, I need a sip of water.
Yeah, sure.
That they take privacy very serious. And I think this is what made Apple as a brand very strong and drove the value, because it's very well connected in the business to business world. From what I understand from our conversation is that it totally makes sense when the company has a business case. That also makes sense for Saudi Arabia to extend the business, of course, to Saudi Arabia, which makes it then more attractive for the investors. There is a lot of capital in Saudi Arabia, so companies in Europe should consider, when they grow, also to extend their growth strategy into the Middle East, basically to move forward. When we come to the final part of our conversation, as even time really flies, and this is great talking to you. What's the future perspective when we look at the global tech landscape? You're very proficient in ICT, you know the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia. How do you see in the next 2 decades the global tech landscape evolve?
Well, in terms of Saudi Arabia, I will add one more thing, which you just mentioned, that, as I mentioned before, that 600,000 students has been trained in data and AI, so that they should know what will be the flow of the data and how to secure the data within the boundaries of the kingdom. Because these 600,000 people will be working in different sectors, different environments. So these trained youth will ensure that the safety, the digital safety, which is required, is in place. When it comes to the next 10, 20 years, quite frankly, it is very hard to answer. Because if you go back 3 years, generative AI, what is generative AI, right? And if you talk during the pandemic, nobody was talking about generative AI at that time. And see now where we are right now. Every second application says AI, 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 right? If you talk about Saudi Arabia, one thing I like about the government initiative I have read in it is the human-centric approach to building the technologies, the human-centric approach building the smart cities in Saudi Arabia to enhance the living standard of the people in Saudi Arabia, right? The declared smart cities, one of the smart cities, Medina, was in the index last year. And I won't say that you will be seeing the flying cars. I won't say that. Autonomous cars are already here in Saudi Arabia. If you go into a few of the compounds, you will find the self-driving cars over there. You will find the next technology will be more like reducing the carbon footprint, because they are spending heavily on the, as you mentioned, the solar power plants, and they are huge investment in the ammonia-driven systems. Well, I mean, quite frankly, it will be very hard, because we already have 5G going into 6G, right? I mean, talks are going on for the 6G. The only evolution that I see is with the artificial intelligence. It has immense potential in Saudi Arabia. It has immense potential. The RPAs, the robotic processes, are automation. This is one of the biggest area which will be available in Saudi Arabia. But quite frankly, I mean, it's very hard to say, wow, the landscape will look like in Saudi Arabia in the next 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how technology developed in the last 20 years. So generative AI, I think it was, when I think back to the 80s, there was this movie Terminator, which I think was back then was a vision. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is Austrian, so of course I need to bring up this example. And I think it was more something like real science fiction. When I also think about Star Trek, this or Knight Rider, this idea that you can talk with technology and the technology moves freely. with robots. I think this was something science fiction might never happen. Now it's reality when you think about Tesla, about ChatGPT. This is all out there, and it will. Who knows what happens in the next 20 years? So.
Well, I mean, things are there. I mean, IoT is there, connected devices are there. They say like more than billion, I mean, like 20 billion devices will be connected in Saudi Arabia. I mean, how it all depends upon the connectivity, right? So many advancements. I mean, what I see, it will be improvement of the living standard of the people. And you don't know, in the next 2 or 3 years, maybe some global event triggers and a new technology, just like AI, and the whole ecosystem goes in that particular direction. But in terms of the smart infrastructure, connectivity, I see a bright future in Saudi Arabia. The companies who are revolving around the same ecosystem, whether large organization or SMEs, they have a bright future in Saudi Arabia.
Nisar, it's great talking to you. We are coming to the end of our conversations. I have 2 questions left. And before I ask you my final 2 questions, I would like to ask you, is there any topic open that you would like to address at the end of the podcast that we didn't talk about?
See, Saudi Arabia, as like we have a topic like from nothing to something to everything. Now everybody's talking about Saudi Arabia. Why they're talking about Saudi Arabia? Because Saudi Arabia is not only unidirectional, it's a multi-direction in terms of all the sectors they're working in. And it will not be a justice to talk about Saudi Arabia in 2 hours. I mean, I feel it will be not just, because so many sectors. If you have one podcast, one other technology guy, let's say in connectivity, let's say in cloud, let's say in smart infrastructure, smart cities, it itself is like 2 or 3 hours of podcast, right? Sectors, tourism, it's what we have discussed is like holistic point of view regarding everything. But one phrase I like the most, of which I always tell the people regarding Saudi Arabia, when they ask about the questions, I tell them that the biggest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. Mm-hmm. It's the illusion of knowledge. So if you think you know something about Saudi Arabia, you might be living in an illusion. Because our perception is from what we hear and see in the media. So all you have to do is go to the authentic government website, get authentic knowledge, come to Saudi Arabia, very hospitable people, very warm people. Now the summer season is gone, you will have the winter. Come here, experience firsthand. And maybe when you go back, you might have 4 or 5 ideas in your head that, okay, this is a gap area which I can fill in terms of my new startup. So that's what I can say.
I like what you said, that the enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, but the thought of having knowledge and knowing it all. I think this is a sound word and a great way to end the podcast. When someone listens to the episode and would like to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect with you?
I mean, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I don't know. I mean, you can type my name over there and you can get connected on the LinkedIn. Because when you are in the ICT industry, you have a lot of sectors. So maybe the people who are listening, they have a different kind of a question regarding any specific sector or any specific technology. So I will be more than willing to reply to them. I consider it as part of my giving back to the community, because Saudi Arabia as a country has given me so much in the last 15 years, and I'm highly obliged. So I am trying my level best to give as much back as to the community, to give my 10 cents into what is happening right now. So they can connect with me on the LinkedIn, whatever they require. I can provide them with the required answers or even material, because I have a lot of material which I can send in and they can read and make a informed decision of their own.
Nisar, thank you very much for your time. It was for me so informative to have a very broad conversation about what Saudi Arabia is. I think it's a good entry point and starting point for people who build companies, run companies, to understand that they should also spend one or two thoughts about adding Saudi Arabia to their strategy for business and also for investments. I learned that Saudi Arabia is really open to many kinds of technology these days. And it's not only what I thought before, petrochemical industry, oil industry. It's has a huge broad range. And maybe we can connect in a year and revisit how the Lion project and other projects in Saudi are developed and evolved. Thank you very much for your time and being on the show.
So one short liner will be, if you are ambitious, if you are a dreamer, and if you're not coming to Saudi Arabia, you start questioning yourself, are you really ambitious or dreamer?
That's a good final sentence.
Okay.
Have a great evening. Let's talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.